Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 19 of my science project of cracking a 1990 top Cello box. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how this science project will test the theory to see if I can build a complete set from a Cello box. I've added the link to my 1990 top Cello box preview video in the description below. With all the packs that I crack, I'm going to share my thoughts and memories about some of the players or cards. After I've cracked the pack, I'm going to choose the best card of the pack. It doesn't have to be a rookie, superstar, or Hall of Famer. It can be something funny about the photo, something interesting about the player, maybe some memory I had of the player from back in the day. So we are down to our last 6 in the Cello box. So we'll get pack number 19 and start cracking. I think in checking we've got all of the chase rookies, so there isn't too much more for us to get out of here, aside from trying to continue to reach the goal of completing a set from a Cello box. Gum came out real nice and in one piece. Okay, so starting off with Jeff Hewson. Utility infielder, spent a number of seasons with a bunch of different teams. Jason Grimsley came up with the Phillies as a starter, but then pretty much spent most of his time as a middle reliever. If I remember correctly, he was caught up in the Albert Bell corked bat scandal. I think he was a relief pitcher that after Albert Bell got tossed, the bat went into the umpire's office. He climbed up through some ceiling vents, got the bat out, switched it, something like that. I think he was the one that was part of that whole to-do. Paul Osemacher, Braves, Cubs, middle kind of lefty specialist reliever. Mark Williamson, he came up with the Orioles, and his first couple of years was really successful. It looked like he was going to be a great setup guy to Greg Olson. Bounced around for a number of years just as a middle reliever. Jimmy Jones came up with the Padres. Moved on to the Yankees. Pretty much no-name middle reliever. Al Leiter. His rookie card is 1988 Topps. It's an error card. I believe it was either George Canal or I think that was the name of the player. In the first printing, it was the error, and then later on they corrected it to have the right photo of Al Leiter. Was a great pitcher. I think he won close to 200 or over 200 games in his career. John Costello, middle inning reliever with the Cardinals. I think he pitched a year with the Reds and then was out of baseball. Felix Jose, my memory of Felix Jose was he was the guy that the Cardinals traded Willie McGee to the A's and in return got Felix Jose. One of the saddest moments of my time as a St. Louis Cardinals fan. Willie McGee was a fan favorite. It was awesome when he came back in the late 90s and spent some time with the Cardinals, but I was devastated to find out the Cardinals got Felix Jose for Willie McGee. Darren Jackson, backup outfielder with the Cubs and the Padres. Don Paul, that's a very interesting name. Don Paul. Seems like it could be Don Pauly, Godfather type name. Chris Bosio, we've covered him in a number of videos. Starting pitcher with the Brewers. Eventually, after 4 or 5 years, I think he had some arm injuries. Pitching Cub with the Cubs. Said a few weird things and pretty much won't ever be back in baseball again. Danny Cox, another key member of my mid-80s St. Louis Cardinals. Cox won a number of games with the Cardinals. He eventually developed some shoulder problems. Was out of baseball for a couple of years. Came back as a reliever with the Phillies, the Pirates, and Blue Jays. Got a World Series ring with the 93 Blue Jays. Before that was an okay starting pitcher with the Cardinals. He was one of the main 3 in their 1985 run along with Joaquin Andujar and John Tudor. Ryan Sandberg, All-Star, Hall of Famer. Deion Sanders, second-year card. His rookie cards are in the update sets in 1989. Multi-sport player. He played with my 49ers. I was a San Francisco 49ers fan. Hall of Famer in the NFL and had about a 12-year career in baseball and did relatively well. A much better football player than he was a baseball player. Bobby Thigpen, he for a long time set the year save record. I think he got 59 saves in a year. I don't know if it was around this time. I think it was a couple years after this. It's since been broke, but he was a great reliever for the Chicago White Sox. Great stopper. Album, Mike Heath was a starting catcher with A's for a number of years, then a backup catcher, Cardinals, Tigers, and a couple other clubs. Greg Maddux, Hall of Famer. I really liked watching Greg Maddux pitch. He had an uncanny ability to throw strikes. He didn't overpower you with speed, but he could spot his pitches, and 300 plus career winner with the Cubs, the Braves, the Dodgers, Padres. A great pitcher. Even though I hated when he faced the Cardinals, you just were in awe watching him pitch. Greg Minton, he's kind of an underrated guy. If you look at his stats with the Angels and the Brewers, he pitched for Angels and Giants. He pitched for a number of years, 14 games over 500, career ERA of 3.11 and 150 saves. Seemed to be a pretty successful pitcher, mainly a middle innings guy, though there was a number of years where he led the Giants in saves. Dave Parker, I've talked about him quite a bit. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, if Jim Rice is in, Dave Parker, Dale Murphy, Don Mattingly, there's a whole slew of guys. Dwight Evans. If Parker didn't miss 2 or 3 years because of injuries related to his drug abuse, I think he easily would have been in the Hall of Fame. I'd like to see him get in the Hall of Fame through the Veterans Committee. Barry Lyons, backup catcher with the Mets. Ken Daly, my memory of him was he formed the lefty part of the bullpen by committee in 1985 with the Cardinals. He was a pretty good lefty reliever. Could get both lefties and righties out. Looking at his career stats, I mean, he had a relatively low ERA. His ERA career-wise is kind of high because early on they thought he was going to be a starting pitcher. Didn't quite pan out, but as you can see, as a bullpen guy, had a number of great years, 5 years in a row with saves and an ERA 4 out of the 5 years below 3. Bob Guerin, I still can't figure out why he had the Topps Rookie Cup. Apparently there wasn't a catcher in the 1990 set that was a rookie that was half decent, so Bob Guerin got it. Gray Goldson, talked about him earlier when we looked at the Mark Williamson card, came up as a stopper with the Orioles, almost straight out of college. I think he may have just spent a little bit of time in the minors. Yeah, 16 total games in the minors, was up the year he was drafted, and then in '89 led the club with 27 saves and a 1.69 ERA. Kenny Williams, more famously known as a front office exec with the White Sox, general manager for a number of years now. He's their, I think, vice president or president of baseball. Ken Oberkfell was part of the St. Louis Cardinals' 1982 World Series championship team. Oberkfell was not your prototypical third baseman. He hit for a high average, but didn't hit a lot of home runs, didn't drive in a lot of runners. He was mainly there because he could get on base and had great defensive metrics. Gino Petralli, backup catcher with a number of teams. Damon Berryhill, backup catcher with the Cubs. Don Carmen came up as a starting pitcher with the Phillies and then spent the bulk of his career as a middle innings guy. Getting a few doubles already. Oh, Craig Biggio, Hall of Famer. When he came up, he was a catcher. After that, he moved to second base. Then he spent some time in center field and really was a pretty good offensive player at all three spots. Defensively, I don't know that he was the greatest in any of the three spots, but getting 3,000 plus hits and voted into the Hall of Fame definitely makes him, a standout player. Okay, 2 cards left. Dan Petrie came with the Tigers, spent a number of years with them, was part of their 1984 World Series team, finished out his career with the Angels. In a lot of his cards, he always looked older than he was. I mean, for instance, in this particular card, he's barely 31, but the guy looks like he's 40. 80s, before the 90s, players didn't do a ton of physical exercise or really look at their physique. So a lot of these guys looked like they were middle-aged when they were really in their late 20s, early 30s. Final card, Melito Perez, brother of Pascual Perez. It was a pitching family. Carlos Perez was part of that group as well. Melito had some success. I don't think he was as good as his brother Pascual, but, out of the brothers, they had some decent stats for a period of time. Okay, best card out of the pack. For me, I'm going to go with Greg Maddux. Now, I know it's a little bit of a cheat because he's a Hall of Famer, but Maddox, you know, I watched him pitch in the late 80s, 90s, up until I think he retired in 2007, 2008. The guy was a competitor, and he knew how to pitch. I think it was 94 and 95, he walked a total of 10, 15 batters the entire year and had an ERA below 2. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, and really a good example of a person that didn't have an overwhelming fastball, but knew how to pitch, knew his situation, and mixed his pitches to make them count. Definitely an awesome baseball player. Well, anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Take some time in the comments section. Tell me what your favorite card was, or what was the best card out of the pack. Until next time, when I crack pack number 20 for my 1990 Top Cello box, remember, this is for science.